The film industry is fucked.
Or is it?
My name is Karl Erikson. I'm a writer and director.
Hi, I'm Omar Portilla. I'm also a filmmaker and producer.
This is our podcast. So, first and foremost, let's talk about what the industry is fucked, or is all about. We're not here to sell you a program or, here's the five easy ways to make it in the industry. Nah, that's not what we're doing. We're two filmmakers who have been in the trenches and we've learned a lot of shit and we want to share that with you. If people don't know, probably 80% of my projects have all been made with Omar. So we have a history together too, along with doing projects on my own and him doing projects on his own. So we're
Yeah.
bringing,
And maybe we'll invite other people to share their experiences too. So,
that would be awesome. Yeah, we do plan to have guests on to talk about independent film. When I say independent film, I'm not talking about the $10 million independent film
yeah, we're talking about like,
that has money to solve some problems. I'm talking
right,
about 250 and less, where
right,
I mean you're fighting to get things done,
right.
and you're scraping by, and you're borrowing, and you're begging, and you're borrowing some more, and you're begging even more. That's the kind of experience that we want to talk about, and we want to
Right.
delve in deep about what it really takes to get that shit done, and how to get it done. It's not just about have a cell phone, go make a movie. It's about have a cell phone. Okay, well, here's what else you need to know.
Right. A lot of people talk about the successful part, but the reality is that's not what filmmakers really go through. The success is at the very end, like the 5%. After that, everything is a struggle.
So we're gonna get right into it. And our first topic is why don't most filmmakers start? I don't know, it's a little bit more complicated than people think. We get the advice a lot, or us independent filmmakers get the advice a lot. You know what? You have a cell phone, go make a movie. It's far more difficult to make a movie than to just have a cell phone. And I think that goes into one of the main reasons why a lot of people don't start is they don't know what to do. I always think about the advice that my father gave me when I was about to get married, when I was about to buy a house, when we are about to have kids. And I was like, Dad, I was like, I don't know if I can afford this. And he gave me such great advice. And I use it for a lot of different things. I used it for starting my first feature film. And that was, he's like, if you do the numbers, you're never going to be able to make it. You're
Right.
never going to be able to afford it. Just get moving, and then things will start to fall into place, and you'll start to realize where you want to allocate finances or things to help you make that project.
And you made a good point. And that's one of the notes I have here. Like one of the first things I have as why people don't get into films or why people never fully just jump right into or ever finish what they start is because a lot of it has to be with perfectionists, right? A lot of people they want the things to align. They want everything to be ready. Like they say, if you don't plan, you fail or you plan to fail. And so people overplan sometimes. People can't like they'll think, you know what, I want to do this film. I want to make sure that I cross all my T's and dot all my I's. But film making in general is chaos.
Yeah.
And you just have to learn how to control the chaos. And you can't really plan for chaos. Think of it on the military perspective. Like you can do all the training and all the planning, but once you hit the ground running, a lot of things you learn go out the window. What you learn for one is not going to work for another. Like what you do for a commercial project is not going to work for a narrative project or a documentary. There might be some things that intermingle, but then there's things that you got to throw a playbook at and start from scratch or apply a different kind of approach to things.
I think that's a great point. And it is organized chaos. I think one of the first things that you need to understand is that you've got to ask questions. That's how you move forward. And when you get the answers, you've got to then determine is that information that you're receiving good for me or not good for me at this time? Because I think that a lot of times you get advice and you think that, well, this advice doesn't really, affect how I want to move forward. And you can't let that discourage you. You can't say that, well, this is the advice that I've gotten and this doesn't work for me. Obviously, I don't belong in the business. I think one of the other reasons that a lot of filmmakers don't get going. And I think this is bigger than, well, maybe bigger for someone my age. I'm 48, and we didn't have the internet really growing up, and I didn't have, inspirational quotes always popping up or technology at my fingertips.
Right.
When I grew up, it was you go to school, you graduate, maybe you go to college, but you definitely go, you get a job and you work. What job do you have? Well, I don't know which one's going to pay. And that's
Right.
really the mentality that a lot of people in my community and my neighborhood had. So though I was a cinephile and I was all about movies, I watched movies constantly. And especially when I got my license, when I turned 17, I mean, the first thing I did was I went to the movie theater. And then I went to down the street 3 times a week. I'd go to Planet Video and I would just rent movies nonstop. Um, and still, the idea of making a movie didn't even occur to me.
Older generation, we tend to have like an idea, like we're stuck in this idea that has to be financed by a studio or it has to have a big company behind it or a big actor behind it. And the advantage, I think, that the newer generations, like, you know what, I'm just gonna get a group of friends and we're gonna put it on YouTube. They're not afraid to put it on YouTube. Where I think our generation is like, if we put it on YouTube, it diminishes it. We can't sell it later. We can't do X, Y, and Z.
Who's going
But
to see this? Who's going to judge
exact,
me?
exactly.
We're definitely the generation of. Am I going to be judged right
I'm
now?
gonna be judged right now.
Yeah.
It's not ready yet. It's not perfect. Again, you know, go back to that idea of perfection for the stars to align, find an investor, find a producer, find a team, put together, get all these things going. Where other people are, especially in this current generation, they're very much like, hey, that's you busy today? Let's put something together. Now, if it's not perfect, that's fine. Some of the best films and films I grew up that I enjoy that became cult classics are the ones that aren't perfect. You
Right.
take Clerks, you take Toxic Avengers, like you take all these B-rate movies, but they create these cult followings, and people will watch them.
But you said something really interesting. You said, I'm going to call someone up and we're going to go make a movie. So that might be another reason people don't start. Maybe they're watching the video and like, oh yeah, I get it. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not in the industry. How do I just go start? And I don't really think that's much of an excuse anymore.
Right.
And I could speak from experience. So when I went back to college, I was 33 years old when I went to film school. And that's where me and Omar met actually at Montclair State University in the film program. As someone who was 33 and working with young filmmakers who were 19 and 20, I don't think anyone gave a shit that I was 33 years old. I think everyone looked at me kind of like, okay, here's a filmmaker, but also here's a helping hand. If you feel that you're too young to get involved or you feel that you're too old to get involved, I can tell you straight away that any filmmaker does not give a shit how old you
Right.
are if you're willing to do work. And I think that's the biggest. You got to be willing to do work. There's very little excuse about I don't know anybody. And that's because today you can just contact a college. Hey, I'm interested in volunteering, and that's usually what you have to do at first, especially if you're going to communicate to college kids and say, hey, I'm interested in learning about filmmaking, and I would love to jump on a college film and learn the ropes. And I think that they would be absolutely joyous to have you. And I think even if you go to Facebook, and there's tons of networking or filmmaking pages where you can hop on, whether you're 18 years old or 60 years old, and say, hey, I'm really interested in getting involved. I want to learn. How do I get onto your project? And there's going to be people who say, hey, you're looking to be a PA, production assistant? Absolutely. Come
Right.
on. We need you. We want you. Because I think that in the independent world, any help that we can get, we're looking for it.
Right.
So, as an outsider, if you're saying to yourself, do they want me? The answer is yes, absolutely.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate to that. The danger to that is I think a lot of people will take advantage of free labor,
Yeah.
and instead of, the idea is that you're gonna go and jump on somebody's set as a free labor, but you're gonna be learning. A lot of times people take advantage of that and they just use you as free labor. Nobody sits, nobody answers your questions. And at the end of the day, whether it's 12, 10, 14-hour day, you're just left tired with more questions than answers. You want to set the expectations to say, hey, at the end of the day, you spend 30 minutes with me an hour, and I get to ask my questions about what I learned, what I didn't understand. And that way you actually get some value out of the time that you're using. So it's not just completely like, taking advantage of.
I think to play devil's advocate, you're devil's advocate. I'm playing devil's advocate.
There you go.
I think that you just kind of have to learn to feel it out. Just like when you send your invoices or when you structure your payment for a client, Omar,
Right.
you have learned things in the past from getting screwed over. So I think it's also a matter of you got to get in there and also learn.
I think fear is also something that drives people from trying to start. I had a friend tell me a long time ago, like, you don't succeed without failing. That's a stepping stone. Failure is a stepping stone in success.
It's where you learn.
That's where you learn. Like, you nobody who's been successful or great in anything they've done in their lives has done it without failure. Like failure is the next step you take, and eventually you take less failures and you get more to success.
I think with that also comes this idea that yes, you should go in and you should make a shitty film and you're not going to know a lot and you're going to be fearful of it. But you also, I think, before you make that movie, you should have goals. If you don't know what your goals are, again, start asking everybody you know anywhere about what do I need to start thinking about. And just because you have that cell phone doesn't mean that you shouldn't be focused on what your story is.
Hmm.
And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be focused on how to communicate not only your audience, but how to communicate to your crew and how to communicate to your actors. You don't just stand there
Right.
screaming at everybody.
And what I take away from that is that the director at the end of the day says, yes, it wasn't perfect, but I needed to finish.
People will ask me sometimes, what's my inspiration or what's my motivation? Inspiration is if you're lacking inspiration, if you get coffee every day at Dunkin' Donuts, go to Starbucks. That
Right.
change up will spark something. Motivation, I feel that if you don't have it, you're not going to make it.
Right.
I don't know anybody, whether they're shooting commercials, whether they're shooting indie films, whether they're shooting studio films. I don't know anybody who is searching for motivation. I think that's super important. I think that if you aren't already thinking of a lot of the things that we're saying, then it's going to be hard for you to move forward. I think in this industry because you've got to be curious. You've got to be out there reaching. And I am an introvert for sure. I go to events because I have to, and I usually just
Right.
stand there and I try to go with someone like Omar, or I try to go with someone like my wife who will do the introductions for me because otherwise I won't know how to communicate with people.
Right. And then
So
you have to know your strengths and your weaknesses too. I think that's the thing too, that you know at least the fact that you're an introvert. So you're gonna need somebody to help you start the conversations to get where you need to go.
yeah, yeah, and even this people are probably watching this saying, if you're such an introvert, why are you doing this podcast?
Right.
And for me, and I don't want to speak for you, but for me, it's I talk to myself a lot.
A lot.
I
Yeah,
talk to
yeah.
myself about the film industry. I talk to myself about films, and I go on to these kind of like lectures in my living room. And my wife was just like, "Hey, maybe get this out to people."
I think going back to your point about motivation, I think a lot of people confuse motivation with their search for purpose. A lot of people say, I need motivation to start the day. I think you just need a purpose of what your day is going to be. Most people who search for motivation, they're not really searching for motivation in the sense, oh, I need a spark. They're searching because they don't know what their path is. They don't know what their journey is going to be like. I guarantee you, once you find something that inspires you and you find a journey, a path you go, like somebody who reaches a point to say, you know what, I gained 100 pounds. I'm going to go back to my high school weight. Like the motivation isn't what gets them up. It's the determination, realization that I am not where I want to be. Let me fix it. And I'm going to go through everything I need to do to fix it. So I think a lot of people they misinterpret motivation and confuse it with their purpose. They're finding because a lot of people don't know what they want to do. You go to college for one thing, you end up doing something else. You think your life is going to turn out one way and it turns out a different way. And then you're stuck realizing, where do I go from here? And
But you're
I
still
think,
motivated to get an education.
right.
So
But more,
being there, so changing direction doesn't really affect motivation. You're already
right.
at school. You're saying to yourself, I'm motivated.
You're
I want to
motivated.
be there.
I want to be at school, but do I at the same time do I want to be in school for this? Like
Right.
I grew up thinking I want to be a doctor or a lawyer, and you realize you hate sitting there looking through legal stuff, or you hate blood. Like, do you really? Your whole life, your parents think you're going to be a great lawyer, you're going to be a great doctor. Yes, I am, and you get there to med school, or you start going for your law degree, and you realize I don't like any of this. And then that's when you try to find to look for motivation. But I don't think it's so much motivation as direction. It's finding yourself and your purpose. And you'll go on set real quick, especially if you're working as a professional in the industry, and that at the end of the day, you're like, do I want to come back to this tomorrow? Some people will have that question. Other people will have this question, man, I need to get home to sleep because I need to be back here tomorrow. So which person is it? Because if it's the one that says, "Do I want to be back here tomorrow?" This might maybe you don't want to be in production. Maybe you want to be in film but not necessarily production. Maybe you want to be a writer. Maybe you want to do post production. Maybe you want to do something else. It's a tease because it comes and goes. Like you can go be motivated to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to hit the gym, and you get there and you don't want to do anything, so you just get on the treadmill and do 30 minutes, and then you go home. Like that's not really what you plan to do because your motivation, it
But you're
worked to
not going to
get you
get
out
in
of bed.
shape.
Right. That's what I'm
So,
saying. Like,
and that's what I'm saying. Like, so if you don't have that motivation in the industry, you're not going to succeed because you got to constantly be. So here's one of the things that I remember talking to Nick Mara because we were both talking about the industries, and obviously he's an entertainer, and I want to do the film industry, and we are kind of talking about like why. And I've said this before to people, and I apologize if people have heard this before, but I always think about, um, you know, the motivation is just there in a sense of I've worked in retail, I've worked a corporate setting, I've worked education, and I've done manual labor. And every single one of those jobs, I've thought about filmmaking and how to get into filmmaking and how to move into filmmaking. Where when I'm doing filmmaking, I'm never thinking about those other jobs. So
right,
that's a clear indicator. When I first went to community college, I was going for multimedia communications. I was going to be first a studio artist, and then I just wanted to be an artist in general. And then I made a short film by accident. I didn't even know I was making a short film. My mother happened to see it, and that's where things changed. And she was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Oh, me and David, we made this little thing." She goes, "Is this a movie?" I'm like, "No, it's only like 2 minutes long." She goes, "It's a short
it's a
film."
skit. It's a skit.
No, well, kind of, but it had a story behind it, and it
Right,
even
right, right.
had internal thoughts. Like we recorded our thoughts on a cassette tape, then hit record on our VHS recorder, and as we were recording ourselves, the our thoughts would play over. My mom was blown away, so she was like, go to school for multimedia communications, and you're still paying for it. And she's like, find any class related to filmmaking. She goes, I will pay
Right.
for it.
There you go.
And I think when you leave community college, you leave with like 60 credits, and I left there with like 93, I believe.
God damn.
But not only that, when I got into film school, well, we weren't really in film school, the film program. I remember I had only made movies by myself. I was
Right.
the basically my crew. And I went there and I was saying to myself, I can't wait to just be, to me, it was a cameraman. I didn't even know it was called the director of photography, to be honest with you. I had no clue. So I went to MSU to be a camera guy. I finally got to be on set because our first movies, they were told we were not allowed to do everything. We were not allowed to hold the camera.
Right.
You
You
remember?
had to crew
So,
up.
so
You
you
had
had
to
to have a
crew up.
crew. And that was my first
Right.
time. I'm like, okay, I got to trust other people.
Right. Exactly.
Fuck. But I did it. And that's when I was like, I don't want to be a director of photography. I want to direct. Like the feelings I got, like watching my words come to life and watching me adjust an actor or watching me communicate to the camera person, the director of photography, what kind of angle I'm looking for, or what kind of movement I want. That was it. That was such it was so amazing. And I think that comes from growing up in a world like I said from in the beginning here, where I grew up in the world where you went to school, and the film industry was for someone else you know? And so for me, I'm one of those people, like, I know, actors or filmmakers will be like, I never go back and watch my stuff. I can't even tell you how many times I've watched my stuff because I sit there saying, I did that? We were able to
Yeah.
put that together? You know, whether it was me acting, being a goofball, or directing, or something I wrote, anything. I go back and I'm just like, oh, holy shit. I went, I wanted it, and I was able to do it. So I guess it is
Right.
obtainable, you
It
know?
is. It is. And again, and that's the thing. Like you have to, you have to have a passion. You have to start something. Like I can't imagine for you when you first had to relinquish command or how hard that is because people want to have control over everything.
Yeah.
But the thing about film is that it's a team win. You have to learn that it's a team effort. You can be the general, the man, commander in charge of everything. You run the troops, but at the same time, you have to trust them. You have to put together a good group. And I told you a saying from one of my professors that probably the only saying that ever stuck in my head was, you know, to be a good producer, you need to be able to have an answer within two phone calls. Like, so if you don't know, you can call somebody And if they don't know, they can help you find the answer with another phone call. You
Yeah.
know, hey, who has a projector? Boom, boom, boom. Got it. Hey, does anybody know we can get cars that, we can blow up? Boom. Does anybody have a makeup artist who can come last minute? Like, you don't need to know everybody or everything. And then be like, okay, now I know everybody. Now I know everything.
Right.
I can start. No, you can have a good team and then, you start building, you start expanding on your team. I think the thing ultimately we're trying to say is that know the process to the extent of I'm not the camera person. I know I need a camera person. I know I'm not the lighting person. I need a lighting person. I know I'm not producing this. I need somebody to help me produce this. I need an AD to help me keep on schedule. I need somebody who can record good audio so I don't have to go back and record it later because they can record anything. Like, know what you need, put together that team, and then go forth and do what you have to do. Start and finish.
In regards to that and starting is I think that some people may be listening to what you just said and get overwhelmed. Like an AD, what am I going to do with an assistant director? What am I going to do with this? So I think that again, if you reach out to these Facebook pages, Facebook seems to be the strongest right now
Right. It does. It really does.
in order to find work. But I think that you will find a second AD who's dying to be a first
Yeah,
AD and is going to
absolutely.
say, listen, I can't do it for free, man. But if you could throw me gas money, you pay my tolls, and give me anything but pizza, I will be there. And then you have your AD. But that person's there, and it might not just happen with a I need an AD, and that person's just going to magically appear. Yeah, you might have to do a little bit of pushing to get that, but I think you do need an AD. And then you're going to say to yourself, well, do I really need lighting? Yeah, you really need lighting. There's probably, you know, um, someone who's been dying to be in charge
Right.
as a gaffer who has not been given the opportunity and is like, listen, I have some access to lights. Let me be your gaffer.
Right.
That's how you put your crew together. And then what's going to happen is no one's going to know everything, but your gaffer is going to have some information and you're going to learn from them.
Right.
And your AD is going to have some information and you're going to learn from them. But it's going to be like film school. I don't think anybody really knew what an AD was supposed to do.
Right.
I
You
had
know,
plenty of ADs on my projects and they were just kind of like walking around saying, lunch. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
I know,
but
but
you just keep moving forward.
keep learning.
Yeah. And then eventually everything starts to make sense.
It does.
You
It,
know,
it falls in. There's pieces to everything. It's a puzzle. You got to find the right pieces that fit.
if
You
you
know,
do the numbers, it'll never work. If you just keep moving forward, things will start to fall into place, like my dad always said.
it's over the overthinking process. A lot. That's another reason people don't get started is because they overthink everything. Like this
Yeah.
script is not perfect yet. Well, when is it going to be perfect?
You know what? For anybody listening, Omar and I do not know how to run a podcast.
We do not. I can't. If you haven't told by now, my camera
We have
keeps
no
stopping.
clue how
So,
to structure it.
right.
You should have seen us trying to put the thing together with the Zoom and everything, but we started.
Right.
We had an idea. We're going to get critiqued on this, and people are going to say, holy cow, guys,
Right.
what were you talking about?
I think this whole thing that we've been talking about successes and failures and getting started and motivation and inspiration, and then everybody's probably gonna be like, you guys are jumping around, but that's gonna be you on set.
Yeah.
Like that's literally gonna be like, okay, you end the scene and you got to think about, okay, what time is lunch? What time do we have to move? Where's makeup? And if you have the right team, you don't have to think about that as much. Somebody else is gonna be thinking about as much. And when you run into a problem, share the problem because
Yeah.
guarantee somebody will be able to fix the problem or help you or have an idea of what's wrong with the problem.
I was very open on my feature. I owe a lot of that to Nick Petronero, who was my director of photography, and Kat Gerlich, who was my AD. I ran into just shit ton of problems,
Okay.
but I had the right team, and they took care of things. And I don't want to even just narrow it down to those two. We were so strapped for cash that we didn't have a lot of different roles filled, where even the actors were jumping in and saying, "Okay, well, you need this prop mixed or fixed or done, whatever." They were jumping in, and like that's the team.
It's the
And
team.
and you know what? As the filmmaker, it wasn't like I was like, I don't know what to do. It's out of control. Or I wasn't like, don't change anything. I'm in charge. I said, here are some people who have a better idea and who are going to make my project better because of their ideas. Why not allow it?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's filmmaking.
Think of it as a team sport. Think of it as football, something where everybody has a position they have to play, and if everybody plays it well, you win.
So if we're gonna wrap this bad boy up, um, what would you say is the biggest risk? Is it failing, or is it waking up one day when you're 70 and saying,
My knees hurt.
if only?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say my knees hurt. Uh,
Well, that happens at 48, dude.
oh, my bad, my bad. Sorry, sorry. Um, you are your biggest failure because you're your biggest critique. You're your biggest. The thing that's stopping you is you. You know, like you have a phone. What's stopping you from picking up recording? You, because you still have to pick up the phone and you still have to hit record, or you still have to write
His
the story.
music. Yeah.
You and your ego and your fears, you are your biggest enemy. Not the person who said, "No, I don't want to work on your film as a DP." Okay, sir, do you? Oh, you do. You have a camera. Oh, you're eager. Okay, yes, let's make a team. Let's start. Like you, I think you are your biggest enemy. You are your biggest failure. You are your biggest fear. And once you realize that and you get that out of the way, you nothing will stop you, I think.
Yeah, and to tag on to that, I think that coming from personal experience, and that's what a lot of this
Yeah.
podcast is going to be about, our personal experiences, is that you know, I'm 48 and I just made my first feature. Why haven't I done this earlier? I have made a bunch of short films, and I think that's the idea of what do I want, and what would I regret. So when I was younger, I wanted to be in a band. To this day, I regret not pursuing that further. When I was younger, I was big into skateboarding, but I was always
Yeah.
on and off, on and off. I never got good. And I have a regret now that I'm older. I can't just hop on a skateboard right now. My knees are shot. So like I do have that regret that I never went for it more. I don't regret not being in the film industry earlier because I have a family and that's what I chose. I chose a safe job in the media world so I can raise a family. But now that they're older, they're in my movie with me.
Hmm.
They're behind me now. So now that I have that, it's fucking go time. That goes along with too, like the idea of why do you want to be in this industry, and why do a lot of people fail? And I think a lot of people want the celebrity of it.
Right.
They don't want the work of it,
Right.
and I think that the same people, respectfully, and not that I haven't used AI for graphics and stuff. I have. I'm not trying to be a hypocrite, but I've definitely not used it to write a screenplay or to write or to make my movie.
Right.
Because I'm in it for the experience. My poster for my movie was drawn by Joe DeStefano, DeStefano. I hope I said that right. DeStefano. He hand drew that. If I were to make that, and I'm sure it could have been made through AI, where's my story? Where's my experience? You know what I'm saying? If I just, as a script consultant, I've gotten screenplays that were written in AI, and I know it because they read like AI. And not only do they read in AI, even worse, when I go back to the writer and I say, hey, we should talk about this, they don't care. They just say, fix it. They're not invested in the
Right.
experience. They just want that outcome. They want, please write me a screenplay. I want to go sell it. I want to go do like, that's not what I want,
Right.
So that's why I would wake up at 70 and be regretful because of how I feel right now. Telling that story about how you saved the film doesn't exist if I made it in my office on
Right.
AI. It exists because we had real interactions. We went for it. Everything that happened from writing my screenplay to having it reviewed by my friends to having that feedback where they liked it or didn't like it, going back and rewriting it, them saying, "This is it, dude. You finished."
Right.
Holy fuck! That feeling that I went through that experience and was able to finish it. Then the experience of putting it into production. So that whole pre-production of failing and going through the pain and learning is it's shaping me as a person,
Right.
opposed to just saying make me this. And I know that AI isn't as simple as make me this. I know that it's more to it than that. But I'm
Right. Right.
saying that opposed to just standing here saying do this for me. I know that the end result is what really matters for an audience member. I know that.
Right. Yeah.
But for me, I'm hoping to still achieve that end result that they care about, but while going through that experience.
But see, you're proving your point even more because people they see the success, they
Yeah.
never see the work behind the success. Think about what you're getting into. It is going to require you to work. If work isn't your thing, maybe this might not be your thing.
Sure. And I'm not saying that there's not going to be an AI world.
Right.
I don't doubt it.
But
I mean, the,
even
the leaps
AI,
and bounds, just like when the 5D came out and everyone said, "Do you think the
everybody can make a
film
movie.
industry
Right.
might go digital?"
Right.
It's digital, man. So I
Right.
know that AI is going to have a bigger place, but it's going to take not even the film. It's not up to the filmmakers. It's up to the audience to say, "I want to watch something by a human,"
Right.
because the end result is entertainment. You just have to decide as an audience member, do you want your entertainment thrown together, or do you want it pursued by people who have a passion for that? And I think that's really the only argument that is, because at the end of the day, it's the end result.
Right.
You
The end
know,
result.
because most people who watch films don't sit there and say, "I wonder what they went through."
Unless it's us.
Right. Yeah. So this is probably what's going to happen for future podcasts. We get sidetracked,
We
but
will.
that's filmmaking,
That's
and
filmmaking.
so I think that's it for our first episode.
Yeah. Yep.
And I want to thank everybody for watching and sticking through. I want to thank Omar for teaming up with me for this. It's awesome. So thank you everybody, and
Yep.
thank you Omar.
Well, thank you. Till next time.